Today's video might be a long one, guys, because we're going to dive into some bows, specifically the raid bow here, which is Accrued Redemption, a beautiful bow that is present in the precision frame archetype, falling in the same category as Soto Calamity, No Turning Back, and of course, Hush. Now we're going to be directly comparing this bow to Hush because there's two main differences between both of these. Number one, Accrued Redemption is in the kinetic slot. So in something like PvE, it's going to be doing a little more damage. Another thing that sets it apart, of course, especially when comparing it to Hush, is the random rolls that you can get on Accrued Redemption. So first up, again, intrinsically, this is a precision frame bow. States compound bow, longer draw time, optimized for damage, press reload while drawn to cancel the shot. Now we're going to be looking at it from two perspectives today, and that is actually based on its two different bowstrings. You got agile bowstring here, which increases handling speed as well as stability. The main thing to take away from this, there is no effect on draw time outside, of course, the masterwork, but underneath it, we've got flexible string, which gives us a 612 draw time when combined with our draw time masterwork. It does decrease our accuracy, but it also gives us an increase in handling speed. Now, make no mistake, these bowstrings make a huge difference, but to what extent does it make a difference? That's what we're going to be figuring out today. Next up, we have Carbon Arrow Shaft. This is the arrow perk. The main reason why I chose this one is neither one of these arrow perks really did much. This one just happened to increase stability. Now, first up, the trait here, Archer's Tempo. Draw time decreases after every precision hit. Now, we have seen a lot of numbers when we talk about Archer's Tempo. I think the consensus for a little bit there was that Archer's Tempo affects draw time by dropping it 160. I'm under the personal belief that it is not a flat draw time reduction. I think it very much depends on the archetype that the bow falls under, and I also believe that there is a cap. Now, next to it is Rapid Hit, which is another interesting trait here, especially when combined with something like Archer's Tempo, as rapid precision hits temporarily increase stability as well as reload speed. Now, reload speed is very important on a bow. It's just as important as draw time, as you have two different mechanics working with your bow. Number one, how long does it take for me to actually knock an arrow and get a full draw? And number two, after releasing the arrow, how long does it take for another arrow to be back on my bowstring again? This is why both of these traits are extremely important, as increasing one is only doing half the job. And this weapon, of course, also comes with a draw time masterwork, dropping it from like a default 684 draw time to 648. Now, before we move into PvP and how this bow performed, we need to talk about the effects of these traits. So over here on Greg, we really start to break things frame by frame. And if you see there at the bottom, there will be random frame codes that pop up. That's just kind of our way of time coding everything to see how much of an effect things like Archer's Tempo and Rapid Hit have on our draw time and reload speed. So first up, let's just go over draw time real quick. Draw speed at 612 draw time, at least stated here on our bow, is about 13 frames. So the moment you start to see the tip of my arrow lighting up to the moment it goes all the way back to my hand, that is approximately 13 frames. That is the perfect draw time. Now, upon landing a precision hit, Archer's Tempo procs, which again at 612 draw time, is approximately 10 frames to fully get the perfect draw. Now, when we do the math here, draw time over frames, we're actually looking at about 564.92 draw time. At least that's what Archer's Tempo on Accrued Redemption drops our draw time to. Now again, this is based on 612 draw time. When we compare it to our draw speed 648 draw time, this of course is our other bowstring that we select, we're sitting somewhere between 14 and 15 frames for the perfect draw. Again, this is at 648 draw time. Now, upon landing a precision hit, Archer's Tempo procs, and at 648 draw time, we see a draw speed reduction to 10 frames. 10 frames, which is identical to the draw time of Archer's Tempo on our 612 draw time. So what that means is essentially draw time with Archer's Tempo is capped to some extent. Again, reports have come in and said that the draw time overall with Archer's Tempo drops draw speed by 160, but that is not the case, as both of these seem to cap out at about 565 draw time. Now, obviously, the 648 version of Accrued Redemption is gaining the most benefits from Archer's Tempo. And this is extremely important to know because when we start deciding what the god roll is here, it's going to depend on how well these traits actually scale with the current draw time of the bow. If you're trying to say, for instance, spec for draw time to begin with. Now, when we look at rapid hit, we run into another scenario here where we get a cap. The base reload speed, now this is base reload speed with enhanced bow loader, is approximately 43 frames. Give or take, guys, I'm getting anywhere between 43 to 45 frames for the moment you discharge your arrow to the moment that you knock another one. Now, rapid hit at 1 stack drops our reload speed to 35 frames, which is a pretty significant drop there. And at rapid hit times 2, it drops it to 31 frames. Now, at this point, I'm thinking, oh man, we're about to get some crazy values. But again, another scenario in which our bow is capped here, rapid hit times 3, 4, and 5 all are capped at 31 frames. And this is the case whether we're using Accrued Redemption at 648 draw time or 612. Further concluding that draw time and reload speed are two very separate things, which we already knew, but it's always nice to have math back us up here. So rapid hit is great on this bow until you get past 2 stacks. After that, it's capped. Now granted, I am using enhanced bow loader, which probably brings us to that cap even faster. And if we were to take something like enhanced bow loader off, despite it only costing us 1 to slot it, and it being an artifact mod, if we were to remove it, our base reload speed would be probably much slower, but this would probably give added value for rapid hit, probably all the way to times 4, at least. Again, that's purely speculations. I don't have frame counts on those, but that is a pretty valid assumption. The main thing to take away from our values right here, whether it be our draw time or our reload speed on Accrued Redemption, is that both fronts, this precision frame bow is capped in some way, which is unfortunate because the obvious bow that we wanted to compare this kinetic precision frame bow to is of course Hush. Now what makes Hush special is that it doesn't seem to be capped. It's got a 684 draw time, just like Accrued Redemption, but when you proc Archer's Gambit, which is that pinnacle perk, this drops our draw time to about 340. Now that's a pretty significant drop there in draw time. Now granted, in order to proc something like Archer's Gambit, you gotta land hipfire precision shots. The upside is that perk lasts for like a whole 8 seconds, giving us essentially double the draw time. Now granted, there is no reload buffs on Hush, so proccing something like a rapid hit is not an option. The best you can do for Hush in its reload speed is throwing on enhanced bow loader, which does drop our reload speed to 36 frames. Now granted, on this Accrued Redemption roll, that's better than the base reload speed of Accrued Redemption, but pretty much rapid hit times 1 and everything after that has a faster reload speed than Hush with enhanced bow loader, but not by much. And that's the thing, every twist and turn, Hush is outclassing this bow. And I'm not saying that this bow is bad. The biggest limitation to this bow is the caps that have been placed on it that could have been just purely by design. Like there could be some level of parameters around bows where Bungie's just like, hey, listen, no, this bow is a precision bow. It cannot go any further than 565 draw time. And the only bow that can go further than that is, of course, Hush, but that's a pinnacle weapon. And the same with reload speed, which we already figured that reload speed was capped in some way considering enhanced loaders. You can only get so high in reload speed before you just start seeing diminishing returns. Now, with all of that being said, number 1, is this the god roll that you should be chasing on this bow? And number 2, considering how good Hush is this a bow to even consider in PvE or in PvP? Now, first up, let's just go over the god roll. Archer's Tempo with rapid hit would hands down be the roll. It would be the roll if it wasn't capped, especially Archer's Tempo here. Now, the other saving grace to Archer's Tempo and rapid hit is you get a greater return on these traits if, for instance, you rolled with bowstrings that increase accuracy instead of decreasing that draw time. So the way I'm looking at it, guys, if you got everything spec'd for that decrease in draw time, say you're rocking a draw time masterwork as well as like elastic string, all of these things that are really dropping our draw time there, I would not recommend Archer's Tempo. At that point, Archer's Tempo is literally almost doing nothing. You're looking at a difference of maybe 40, 35 milliseconds, which is the equivalent of Jack. So I would not recommend doing what we intentionally wanted to do, which was like drop our draw time as low as we can possibly go on this precision bow and simultaneously load out traits that make our draw time even faster. So if you got everything spec'd out for draw time, this actually opens up a number of traits. You can go with rangefinder and moving target, no distractions and rampage, rangefinder and rampage. I mean, there's so many options here. The main thing to take away from this is Archer's Tempo, despite it being considered a T1 perk, is not even tier 3 if our base default draw time is already by default being dropped either through Masterworks or bowstrings. Now, if everything is gauged at accuracy, say for instance you got a high tension string, which also increases our charge time, this is when something like Archer's Tempo starts to become very useful. This is also a scenario in which we may actually reach that 160 drop there in draw time. I'm under the assumption that Archer's Tempo, even if we raised our draw time here, would still drop this bow's draw time down to 565, somewhere around that neck of the woods. So that is when something like Archer's Tempo becomes a much more desirable perk. And again, that final trait column, you can rock whatever you want to rock. Was Rapid Hit helping me today? To some extent, yes, but it wasn't necessary. I think in PvE, it 100% can be necessary, especially if you don't want to rock a bow loading perk. The issue is right now is that our artifact mods offers a bow loading perk that only costs +1. So actually dedicating that to one of your gauntlets is not a difficult thing to do, and everyone should have access to it. For me personally, I think in PvP and in PvE, I would have preferred something like Moving Target or Rampage. But that's the way to look at it, guys. Again, Archer's Tempo is a good perk, but only on bows that spec out for accuracy, and it's a bad perk on bows that are spec'd out for draw time. Now, whether or not you should use this bow over Hush or just in general, because I know bows are not the most popular type of weapon to bring, especially in something like Crucible. One thing this bow does open up is that it does open up that energy slot, and I don't promote Recluse users, but rocking something like this in that kinetic slot does leave that energy slot open for weapons like Recluse. I think my preferred loadout, especially if I was to play the Hunter class, would be Accrued Redemption with perks loaded out there for accuracy with Lucky Pants and Sunshot. Get the quick swap to Sunshot. You got explosive rounds, so even if you're outside of the range just a little bit, you're still going to deal full damage. Proc the AoE explosion, swap back to your bow, rinse and repeat. Well guys, that is Accrued Redemption. This was a long video. I had to learn a lot for this one because I needed to know for sure if there was a ceiling to these perks like Archer's Tempo as well as Rapid Hit. Obviously, Rapid Hit still provides that stability buff, which is a little more harder to gauge on when exactly that caps out. But reload speed does cap out, at least on this bow. And Archer's Tempo, which has been reported as being both a great perk and a garbage perk, there had to be a reason for that. Because I've seen so many posts where people have been on both sides of the spectrum. And the whole reason why that is because people are playing with bows with very different draw times on either side and are experiencing a very different Archer's Tempo. Well, fellas, that is our review. Thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.